Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. But today, we're not talking about metal, rock, or prog. We're actually going to talk about my top albums of 2025, my top 10 that aren't metal, rock, or prog albums. Even though 90% of what I listen to falls into one of those genres, I have checked out a little bit of stuff in other genres like folk, ambient, jazz fusion, which may be considered rock, pop, classical, electronic. So this is going to be my top 10 albums in those genres. And I'm just going to dive right in. I'm not an expert on these genres, but these are some things that I found that I enjoyed this year. Starting at number 10, which is Breidablik and their album YCS5. And this is instrumental dark ambient electronic music. It may be a bit of a cheat because it does have some progressive rock and Berlin school influences here. But Breidablik is a Norwegian band, and I listened to this because I love their collaborative album with Giorgio from this year. But dark ambient electronic instrumental stuff is not usually a genre that resonates with me, but this album is pretty cool. It's all made with only one synthesizer. So it's kind of like a novelty thought experiment, but it's quite an impressive feat. Um, Not sure how much repeat listen value this had, but I thought it was pretty cool. So apparently, from quoting from their Bandcamp, they chose one of the most limited synthesizers to make this beloved vintage Yamaha CS5 from 1979. It's fully analog, it's monophonic, so single voice synthesizer. It only has one oscillator, one filter, one envelope, one LFO, one noise source, and not much else. Modern features like patch storage, MIDI, velocity, and aftertouch are absent, making it one of the most basic synths ever made. But despite its limitations, it delivers a rich, fantastic sound, and it's incredibly fun for Breidablik to work with here, especially when paired with some effects pedals. This they call out on their Bandcamp that this album is an anomaly in their discography. It doesn't represent the direction of future releases. It's just a tribute to this instrument to show what can be achieved with such a simple instrument. So really cool, really interesting that they did this. I'd be curious to check out more from Breidablik. This one I just put in my good tier. It didn't blow my mind, but I thought it was kind of a cool thing to mention here. And at number 9, I've got another one that's solo piano style, but quite different. This is Rick Wakeman and his album Melancholia, which is kind of more of a classical solo piano album rather than synthy like the last one I mentioned. But yeah, this one is instrumental too, so like the last one I mentioned, and arguably has some progressive rock influence because of Rick Wakeman being in Yes and everything, but I wouldn't really call this a progressive rock album. It's very solo piano driven, more classical inspired. And Rick Wakeman has so many albums, it's hard to count. I think there's 94 on Rate Your Music for him, but I think this is his 25th solo album, maybe, because like 7 of those from Rate Your Music are movie soundtracks. Some are collab albums, so if you don't count those, some of them are him playing classical music composed by others, or Christmas songs, or things like that, or piano arrangement of Yes songs. So I don't really know what counts as a full album for him. Very bizarre catalog. He has a lot of variety. Some of his solo albums are prog, some are classical, some are more ambient. This one, I think, leans more towards classical feel. Just solo piano, no vocals. Great piano playing, as always, by Rick Wakeman. Great compositions. I prefer his more progressive rock albums, so I just put this one in my good tier as well. Now at number 8, non-metal, non-rock, non-prog album of 2025, I got Steve Blanco with Imprints of Man, carrying on my instrumental solo single piano instrument trend. My 10, 9, and 8 are all kind of fitting into that category. This is another classical solo piano one with jazz influences, but it's solo piano versions of music by the band Imperial Triumphant. which Steve Blanco is a member of. So it's got that black metal and death metal, extreme metal, avant-garde kind of vibe to it, but it sounds beautiful and just jazzy and really different when it's performed on solo piano. So it doesn't really sound like metal. Yeah, it's really amazing to hear this music by Imperial Triumphant on solo piano. You can hear how interesting the chords, the melodies, and the harmonies are. It's very jazzy, very technical, dissonant and dark, but beautiful. The whole album continues in this way with very great piano playing on these very dense, intricate, jazzy arrangements. And yeah, it's really funny to imagine that this is a piano medley of a metal album because it really does sound like a jazz solo piano album with classical moments, or it could be like an intense film score. And even though solo piano albums aren't usually my thing, you see I can check out a few of them though. They're my 10, 9, and 8 on this list here. This is, I think, the best I heard in this style this year, and one of the best I've ever heard in this style. The only people who can do better than this one by Steve Blanco for me are people like Jordan Rudess, some of Rick Wakeman's best stuff, and Tigran Hamasyan. Those are kind of my favorite piano player albums and artists. So check this out if you like those guys. I think you might enjoy it. My number 8, I put it in my very good tier. So it's up a notch from the Rick Wakeman and the Breidablik one. This one really impressed me. Very good tier. Steve Blanco, Imprints of Man. So that was a trio that I have here. And at number 7, 6, and 5, I've got another interesting trio that are all kind of related sonically. They're all in this dark Nordic pagan Viking neo folk with like ambient vibes, and this is an interesting genre that I kind of want to get into more, and I've been always interested in it, but never like fully dived into it. But I checked out a few in this style, and number 7 is Wardruna and their album Burna. And this I have in my very good tier. This is Wardruna's 6th album. They're a Norwegian band, and they make this very primal, rhythmic, and percussive music with chant-like, trance-inducing vocals, both male and female vocals. If you're a fan of bands like Heilung and others in this dark Nordic neo-folk ambient scene, when you listen to stuff like this, it sounds like you're listening to an ancient Viking satanic ritual, but somehow it's also beautiful and so well composed. Very adventurous and cinematic music. It's weird, not really accessible to mainstream pop listeners, but I do think most people, even normal people, would listen to this and find it at least interesting and intriguing, and they would respect it and consider it good music, even if it's not for them. I think it's very good. It's likely even a step up from their last album, but again, this is not a style of music that I listen to often, but it's one that I check out every now and then when I'm in the mood for it. And I think I'll keep checking out things that Wardruna puts out going forward, though I won't listen to it often. But I think if you like if you like this genre, this is one that you have to hear. Burna by Wardruna at number 7. At number 6, I have another one in that genre, which came out on Season of Mist. It's Dan Heim is the artist, and the album's called Heimford. Another dark Nordic pagan neofolk with ambient. This one's got a little bit more electronic vibes to it as well, and also in my very good tier, but I think it's maybe just a step up from Wardruna's album. And this is Dan Heim's 9th album. This is a Danish musician, Ryder Schaefer Olsen, who goes under the pseudonym of Dan Heim. Again, for fans of Heilung, Wardruna, and Awar, I really enjoyed the track Yggdrasil 2, but really I just enjoyed every track on here from Dan Heim, so check it out if you like this style. And last one in this style that I want to mention, my favorite one, but they're all very close. This is another very good tier one, is Sowulo and their album NIHT, another dark Nordic pagan Viking neofolk at number 5. So now let's move on to some different stuff. So I got through my classical or my solo piano instrumental ones, and I got through my dark Nordic pagan Viking neofolk ones. Now my top 4 are each kind of unique. They aren't really like each other, but they're not really rock. They're not really metal. They're not really prog. Number 4 is Jacob Collier and his album The Light for Days. It's weird because I guess it's a little prog, it's a little bit rock, but it's mostly like folky pop singer songwriter soul R&B, but it's kind of progressive in that way and a little bit of rock sprinkled in. Yeah, The Light for Days by Jacob Collier. This is his 6th album from the UK, and I had mixed feelings about his album before this. Some of the songs were among my favorites of that year that it came out, which I forget what year it was. But some of them were really annoying and irritating. So it was kind of hit or miss on his last album. I was hoping this would be more consistent because I think if he stayed at the top of his game for a whole album, he has potential to be excellent here. This one I've put in my very good tier. I do enjoy this album more than his last. It reminded me a lot of Bon Iver, but with a bit more noodly, technical acoustic guitar lead runs. And I was pleasantly surprised to hear it included a cover of Norwegian Wood by the Beatles as well, which is a song I really love. He definitely takes some liberties with it rhythmically and melodically. He delivers a much more technically impressive version of the song than the Beatles do. But I do still appreciate the Beatles version more for its charm, the sitar, and the Beatles vocals. Jacob's vocals and the guitar work throughout the whole album are just great, though. All clean singing here, huge emphasis on acoustic guitars this time around. And I appreciate that it doesn't have as much of the electronic, poppy, auto-tune production as the last album, and it's more acoustic and folky. So if you like the sounds of that, check out The Light for Days by Jacob Collier. At number 3 on my non-metal, non-rock, non-prog list, I've got Snarky Puppy and Metropole Orchestra. This is instrumental, it's jazz, it's classical, kind of jazz fusion, so maybe a little bit of rock in here, some funk, some pop, some world music. But I think it's enough, it's different enough from what I usually listen to call it not metal, not rock, not prog, though it's almost some of those genres. But yeah, it's more jazz, more classical, funk, world, that kind of stuff. Check out the track Chimera for a preview and It Stays With You. Those are my favorite tracks here. This is Snarky Puppy's 16th album, and they're one of, if not my favorite jazz fusion bands, and it's really interesting to see them collaborating with the Metropole Orchestra. I heard other artists collaborate with that orchestra, Lewis Cole and Corey Wong, and they always do a great job, that orchestra, Metropole Orchestra. So this is basically the most classical and symphonic sounding Snarky Puppy album that I've heard. And the last track, It Stays With You in particular, is just amazing and cinematic. It's my current favorite on the album. Many other tracks are great too, like Waves Upon Waves and Chimera. Recurrent is an awesome epic length track. It's almost 14 minutes long. It's wild because it's essentially the same 3 chord strikes over and over again for a lot of the songs. Uh, though there are parts in the song that don't have the same 3 chords just going over and over again. They change up what's happening behind those chords, and a lot of the track actually has this intense drum solo type drumming over it, which I don't usually like hearing on albums, but that one's somehow still cool to listen to. If that sounds good to you, check out Somni by Snarky Puppy and Metropole Orchestra. Now my number 2 non-metal, non-rock, non-prog is going to be a pop album, electronic synth pop. It's by Lights, and it's called A6. So electronic synth pop. It's got some alternative and indie rock influences. Again, you can maybe say it's on the border of rock at times. I think most music is at least has some influences from rock, as it's been so prevalent in the culture throughout the 20th century and into the 21st century. But Lights is a Canadian artist. This is her 6th album. I enjoy all her full-length albums. In particular, I love her first 4, which I think are excellent. Some of my favorites, if not my favorite pop albums, are by Lights. And the last one she put out, Pep, was also very good, but I do feel like it was a bit of a step down. It sounded less like she had her own signature style, and she's starting to sound more like just typical pop. Her earlier stuff has its own kind of identity, and she has her own style. Her main style is kind of this DIY sad girl pop music where she's kind of inspired by emo music, but focuses on just simple keyboard parts, occasional guitar parts, but just making sure that every melody and hook and chorus are just amazingly catchy. She's not afraid to take some risks as well. Some of the choruses on here are really great, like on Damage, Surface Tension, and White Paper Palm Trees. They're also catchy. For Alive Again, it definitely had potential from the verses, but I didn't really like that chorus style of vocal melody. It's essentially just like a lack of melody, more of a cheerleader chant. But most of the tracks on the album here are bangers. I think it's a slight step up from her last album, Pep. Not quite back up to the level of her first four albums, so I'm just putting this in my very good tier. It almost made excellent. That is A6 by Lights, my number 2 non-metal rock and prog album of the year. My number 1 non-metal rock and prog is by Madeline May, and it's called 1,000 Songs About It All, Act 1. Now, this is indie folk with pop, musical theater, and dark cabaret influences. I put this one in my excellent tier. I even went back and checked out her debut album. This is Madeline May's second album. Went back and checked out the debut album, and it's also excellent. For this one, check out the track My Only Sense of Purpose, probably my favorite track on the album so far. So the opening track on here is that one, and it's just a great opening to the album. And I imagine a lot of these songs by Madeline May here are just written on the ukulele as basic chords and melodies, but then a lot of this theatrical production goes in after that. If you're a fan of this like theatrical cabaret influenced indie art rock music, bands like Black Dime Cabaret, Dirt Poor Robins, The Deer Hunter, imagine bands like that, but a little bit less proggy than those bands, but mixed with this sophisticated indie folk stuff like Bon Iver, but then also with just like straight up pop hooks like Olivia Rodrigo. Check this one out. It's 1,000 Songs About It All, Act 1 by Madeline May, my number 1 non-rock, non-metal, non-prog album of 2025. We found some cool stuff to check out on this list. Let me know what you think of it down in the comments, and what are some of your favorites from 2025 outside of the genres of metal, rock, and prog that I'm very familiar with. I'm looking to branch out and explore some other genres, so always happy to get some recommendations. And if you want to see my actual favorite albums of the year, most of them, I mostly focus on prog metal, prog rock, post-hardcore, metalcore, that kind of stuff, mathcore. Check it out on my channel. I've already put up my top 25. I've put up recently the best metal album of 2025 in each subgenre, where I cover 15 different subgenres of metal. I've done a similar video for rock, where I do 13 subgenres of rock and my favorite album in each from this year. And I've been doing top 10s of various genres like black metal, metalcore, post-hardcore, and instrumental albums. Continuing my year-end content run, my next one will probably be top EPs of 2025, top live albums, top prog rock albums, top debut albums, and top prog epic tracks. That might be it for my year-end content, but also let me know if you have any other video topic suggestions for me. Always interested to hear people's ideas. And if you like metal, rock, and prog music, or just music in general and want to keep up to date with new stuff that's coming out, I talk about my first impressions of new stuff every week. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay in the loop, and I'll see you next time. Peace out.